This is a Power 98.7 podcast. Now we're talking. Subscribe to Power 98.7 podcasts in iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. There's more on power987.co.za. Power Breakfast with TT. Weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. on Power 98.7.
Well, I was just talking there a moment ago about just now what I just mentioned, Bongani Baloyi being the latest politician the newest member of the MKParty. Well, what we learned last week, of course, is that the MKParty announced that a former executive at Transnet and Eskom, Brian Molefe, will now be a member of Parliament for the MKParty. He was sworn in on the same day as a former PRASA CEO, Lucky Montana, was also sworn in as a member of Parliament. Let's speak to the newest MKParty MP, Brian Molefe. Molefe. Legaira. Nyawai. Manzike maka. Or I should actually be greeting you, Gere. Kwazam kondo. Good to have you with us. It's been a very long time since we've spoken. First of all, let me get, how are you doing? How have you been doing, in this time when you have been in hibernation, I would put it?
No, I'm fine. I have been able to do some study, to reflect on a lot of issues. As you know, I completed the LLB degree.
Indeed, yes. Congratulations, by the way.
And now I'm waiting for my results for the LLM.
Fantastic. Wow. How then did you get lured back into this world of politics? I thought you were charting a new path when you announced that you had acquired your LLB, that was perhaps a new a path that you'd be following. How did you get lured back into not just politics but now parliamentary politics?
Well, it is out of the realization as I reflect that if you look at the structure of the South African economy and the structure of South African society, it has not changed from under apartheid. So you still have in South Africa blacks or race as a determinant of class. If you are born black in South Africa, you are most likely to be in the working class, you are most likely to be poor. And if you're born white, you are privileged. Even today, 30 years after democracy, that is still, race is still a determinant of a class. Black people largely still live in the townships in Soweto, in Alexander, and white people still largely live in Sandton and Waterkloof. And it is just a sprinkling of middle class black people that give a semblance of some kind of advancement of black people, but it is not really the advancement of the majority of black people that has happened. So, on reflection, I thought, 1994 was a moment, but it did not end apartheid. Nor did it end colonialism or the effects of colonialism on South African society. You still have black people as landless, whose land was stolen hundreds of years ago when the colonialists landed in South Africa. The land has not been returned. So I felt like, at some point, we have to do something about it. We really have to do something radical in our lifetime to push back against this apartheid structure of the South African economy and South African society. And the MKParty came at an opportune moment, and it resonates with what my thoughts were about South Africa and black people and the way in which we are still kept in darkness.
Why MKParty though? I mean, you say it resonates with what you were saying.
Yes.
But what makes it what makes it that? I mean, what makes it the right vehicle in your view, or the only option to get the kind of transformation that you are preaching?
Because it seeks to challenge the current structure as it is. The structure that I've just defined: landlessness, poverty, unemployment. It has the intention, it seeks to challenge all of this. And what it requires is for activists and people like me to come in and make that ideal or that dream a reality. So we cannot just sit and say that the South African economy is unequal, that it still has the old apartheid structure, and not do anything about it. And MK seeks to correct all of that. And it will require young people who have ideas to come forward and input into this force that is now picking up.
Let me ask you, in terms of the way in which you come into the party, and I'm fascinated in terms of the process or the discussions that would have happened. I mean, was it made clear to you when you were recruited that you would be sent to Parliament? Was that what made this appealing and attractive to you, or were you already active within MKParty circles, say, for example, in the build-up to the election?
No, I was not overtly active, if I can put it that way, and I was not recruited. They say that inomkhonto siyazivela, we just come by ourselves. So I was not recruited. But then also I was not overtly active during or before the elections. And I came out after the elections, and it was not to seek to go to Parliament, but it is something that it was felt that I should do.
Your last stint in Parliament was rather short-lived, if I can put it that way. How geared are you towards parliamentary politics? I mean, what prepares you in term for this role?
As I have said, this idea that we have of changing South African society is quite profound, and I have resolved within myself that we're in this thing for the long run. And for me, I mean, this is the last 20 or 30 years of my life, and it is a period during which we should make an impact. It is a period during which I think that the MKParty will make an impact, and I would like to be part of that, so that we can write history as the generation or the people during this era that changed South African society fundamentally, which is what we require to do.
You come into this position, and I wonder whether you see it as an opportunity as well to set the record straight on some issues. I mean, you are one of those, along with Lucky Montana, for example, and even Siyabonga Kama, who are some of the people who came out of, who were somewhat tainted by the outcomes and whatever the findings of the State Capture Commission of Inquiry were. And I will note here at this point here that you have at this stage, not been convicted of any crime, nor have any of those people, even though you have been through the courts. Let me just get your take in terms of all of that, the issues around state capture, and some of the legal matters that are flowing out of the the report of the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture.
Well, as you know, Taviso, and South Africans claim that we have the best constitution in the world. or one of the best constitutions in the world, and people have said they are committed to the constitution. Members of parliament here in Cape Town take an oath to uphold the constitution. The judges also say they will uphold the constitution. But Section 35 of the constitution says you are not guilty until proven guilty in a court of law. Not anywhere else, but in a court of law.
Oh, you are presumed innocent.
You're presumed innocent. You're presumed innocent. And the presumption of innocence must not be something that is taken lightly or conveniently, or it must not apply to other people and not others. It is a presumption that has weight. So, which means that, Tabiso, if you are there is an allegation against you, and we have to presume that you are innocent. And in presuming that you are innocent, we cannot take away your right of an innocent, the right of an innocent person. You understand what I mean? So we cannot presume that you are innocent and yet treat you as a convict or a criminal when you have not been found guilty of any crime. And quite frankly, I left Eskom and in 2017, that is 7 years ago. And for 7 years, I thought I was giving the authorities an opportunity to charge me and convict me if I have done anything wrong, but to also be in a position to defend myself. But it looks like if I continue like this, I will have to wait for 20 years because they are not making any progress in bringing me before a court and making sure that we are charged and convicted for whatever wrong they think we have done. I know that I have not done anything wrong. I'm ready to defend myself. I've been ready to defend myself since Tulima Donsela wrote her report. And in her report, she said there must be a further investigation by a commission of inquiry.
Right.
And there was a commission of inquiry. Guess what it recommends? A further investigation. So, so now I've decided, I've given them a chance. If they come, they will come at their own time. And for now, I will continue to do what I believe in, which is the transformation of South African society.
My guest this morning is the newest member of parliament of Mkhonto Wesizwe Party, Brian Molefe. We will continue our chat with Mr. Molefe, and I hope you'll indulge us a little longer and are happy to take one or two calls from some of our listeners. 0861 987 000 is the number to dial. We'll carry on talking to Brian Molefe in a moment.
Power Breakfast with TT. Call TT on 0861 987 000.
My guest this morning is the new MKParty member of parliament, Brian Molefe. We'll talk. We'll just carry on with our chat with him. We'll take one or two of your calls as well in the time that we have remaining with Mr. Molefe. You touched on Eskom, and I'm curious to hear, as a former chief executive of that institution, what you make of this apparent turnaround that has been achieved there. We've now gone 150 plus days without load shedding. What do you, in your observation and with your inside knowledge, and make of it in terms of what has changed there?
Tabiso, when I got to Eskom in 2016, there was load shedding. A very bad load shedding that was happening at the time. And within 6 months, we fixed it. And we had no load shedding for about 3 years. And after we left, a series of chief executives were appointed. Mr. Pravin Gordhan became the Minister of Public Enterprises. And the first thing that they did is they destroyed all the good work that we had done because they labeled it as state capture work. And so they destroyed it. They brought in a white man, Mr. Director, who had no clue, absolutely no clue, together with Oberholzer. And they were bumbling and making mistakes and costing this economy billions of rand because of their white privilege, arrogance, and stupidity. And so they got it wrong and cost us years of load shedding since 2018. However, at the moment, what we have in Mr. Marukani, Mr. Marukani understands what needed to be done. Mr. Marukani is an engineer that understands what needed to be done. Mr. Mtetwa, the chairman as well. And what they are doing is not new. It's what we did a long time ago with Mr. Koko. We did not ban diesel, just like they're not banning diesel now. And we had success in fixing the boiler tube leaks and in fixing the generation equipment. There is nothing wrong with our generation equipment, with the machines that generate electricity. They are old, but they can still work. You know, in Cuba, they still drive cars from 1959. And in that sense, there is nothing wrong. A machine is a machine is a machine. If a part breaks, you fix it. If you don't have the part, you make it. You make a plan and make sure that the nation has electricity until something better comes along. When you have that old machine, you have to work with it. And that is the resolve that we had taken in 2016. And it would appear that now that is what is happening. Of course, the first step had to be to stop the process that President Gordon had started of closing down coal-powered power stations. Because if you close down coal-powered power stations in South Africa at the moment, you will have load shedding because coal is the source of our electricity for now. Coal that is under the ground that has been given to us by God.
Okay. Stay with us. Let me just quickly get in one or two questions and then I'll get you to respond. I'm going to ask you to keep it nice and brief for me, Masugu, and those of you also who are holding. Masugu, go for it.
Msushwana, sanibona lapho noMlife.
Yebo baba.
Yebo baba.
Mr. Molefe, mina, I didn't judge you. And what I'm just going to say to you, just take the steer, go ahead with the steer, let our kids live a better life. Let our kids live a better life. I think I'm giving you an opportunity and I'm giving you a chance to change the country, Baba.
Okay, Masugu, thank you so much. Masugu on the line from Faraday. Let me quickly hear from Sanele in Durban. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. How are you?
Yeah, go for it. I just give your comment or your question for Mr. Molefe.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Molefe. This is Sanele Moali here. I would like to commend your contributions to the work of this country. I know that you have been made to be seen as someone who collapsed the parastatal at the time, but the reality that we have is we have lost so many hours of light ever since you have left the parastatal because you've put it on the spot or you've administered it so correctly that we had hours of light, and ever since you've left the parastatal, we are experiencing massive amounts of load shedding. So really, this story has it has to be re-put and has to be redefined.
Okay.
Because really we had a good time and we had proper functioning infrastructure at Eskom at that time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sanele in Durban. BrianMolefe, I'm going to give you an opportunity to comment or respond on what the folks have been saying. It's just gone 8:30. I'm going to take the latest news and then we'll be back with Mr. BrianMolefe.
Power Breakfast with TT. Weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. on Power 98.7.
All right, comments coming through as well on X for BrianMolefe saying that 30 years after apartheid, what has changed? What have we achieved as a democracy socially? Abuti Brian was happy under Thabo Mbeki. What's the difference now under the same ANC? And then JBKB asks the question, how did Mr. Molefe advance the empowerment of a historically disadvantaged people when he served the PIC, Transnet and Eskom? Mr. Molefe, I don't know which one of those you want to jump on first. I think the previous callers just before the news were just making a comment really, and I think congratulating you and encouraging you. But do you want to pick up on those that are more specific questions?
Yes, and And I want to thank the two previous callers for their confidence in the MKParty and in myself in assisting to transform the South African economy and society. It is something that we have to fight for. We have to fight for and struggle to achieve. It's not going to fall from a tree. Now, the caller that asked what I did when I was at the PIC and Transnet and
Eskom
for transformation. Actually, and at the time, so I could even have asked you to answer it for me. Because it is not what I say. Yeah, it is what I have really done that people who are serious in South Africa know about. That we sought to transform the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, the corporate sector in South Africa. We introduced the first black chairperson of Barloworld and Sasol. We took it on and brought in black women executives and board members, and we were very vocal about bringing black people into the mainstream of the economy.
This is at the PIC.
At the PIC, yeah. And similarly at the Transnet and at Eskom, we embarked on a similar project. I remember that we awarded contracts to women-owned companies, black economic empowerment companies. Some of the things that were not sustained and carried on with after we had left. The PIC is now much quieter than it was during my time. So it is not really for me to say what I have done or what it is it is my actions that will speak for themselves. And similarly, I would like to say that it is not for us to say what Umkhonto Wesizwe party will do. I think that people must wait for our actions, and by our actions, you will know us.
What would you say then? What would you say about your time, your association with the Guptas and Gupta-owned entities in terms of the role that they played, and why it is that the Guptas are now are outside of the country? People who supposedly made a massive contribution to all these entities that you were, and as you stood accused of being an enabler for them. What do you have to say about that? And I think for me, it's that why it is that the Guptas are not even in the country themselves to answer for themselves.
Well, I don't know what the Guptas did, but the Guptas were business people, and they had coal mines, and they bid for work at Eskom, like everybody or anybody was allowed to bid for work at Eskom. Incidentally, the procurement of coal at Eskom is about 40 billion rand a year. Well, in 2017, it's about 40 billion. It's now more. And what business the Guptas did was about 2 or 3 billion. In fact, the issue that offends a lot of people was about 1.65 billion. Now, the question for me is, so why don't people ask about the other 38.35 billion? Who did it go to? And what was my relationship with them? I don't know if people were listening carefully to me when I spoke at the Zondo Commission about Glencore, for example, who were trying to extort from us a higher price for their coal. I don't know if people were listening to me when I talked about the 40-year contract that had been entered into by companies that were essentially white. The companies that are continuing to enjoy the procurement from Eskom. There is this fascination and with the Guptas. They may have done something wrong, and to the extent that they have done something wrong, the police must investigate and arrest them for what they did wrong, if there is anything that they have done wrong. But I know that I did not do anything wrong with them. I simply treated them like all the other companies that were doing business at Eskom.
Okay.
And it is that is getting the focus. People are saying, people talk as if the only people that I ever did business with in my entire career was with the Guptas, and that is not true.
No, no le bona hapa akere.
Ke nwa le bona.
Angere wena o re bitsa rona le bana le shebile.
Ai, dilo tso ke dilo tsa chose, man. Wa mo itse chose.
Ke a mo jaja.
Chose ke fika go mmereko ke re Tulima Donsela. Tulima Donsela said that I was in the area of section well. Chose then said, yeah, mara nna ke tlhole ke photo nda. Go section well.
Yeah.
So yeah. So later on, during the press conference here, Chose says there is a Shebeen there. Hey, by Kwaram. But from that, it was my idea. And even on that day, I explained, for Chose just told me this morning, for there is a Shebeen in that area.
And you maintain to this day, or you've never been to their house and walked away with bags full of cash?
No, I've never walked away with bags full of cash, but I have been to their house. And nobody has ever said that I walked away with bags full of cash. There's no evidence anyway that says that Mr. Molefe had cash in his bags when he walked out of the Gupta. There's no evidence. Even those security guards, they say they were this was my driver. He took me there. I had a meeting there. He doesn't know what was discussed. He doesn't know what they gave to me, and then we left. What kind of evidence is that?
Was that common? Was that a common practice, though, for you to visit service providers of Eskom at their homes?
I visited a lot of people at their homes for different reasons. For different reasons in my career. I just don't want to mention names now because then you're going to make them famous. But I have known people. People have even invited me to their functions, and I've gone there.
Okay.
I think the only wrong thing that I did is that I did not treat the Guptas differently. And it looks like South African society expects me that when it came to the Guptas, I was supposed to treat them differently. But how could I, when I am not aware that they have been accused of anything?
Okay. Brian Molefe, I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much for coming on. We wish you well on your new challenge that you have taken up. And thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you very much.
That is the Member of Parliament from Mkhonto Wesizwe Party, Brian Molefe. The nice thing about this is that we'll stop referring to Brian Molefe as former Eskom CEO and Lucky Montana as a former PRASA CEO and can now talk about what they are now.
You've been listening to a Power 98.7 podcast. For more podcasts, visit power987.co.za or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.